Welcome to the very first episode of the Clubhouse Briefing Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Colton Kelley, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this podcast, wherever you're tuning in from. I know where I'm at in Texas, it is the afternoon and it's hot. And so whether you're here in the States or anywhere else, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come listen to us, just actually get to know what we're going to work on in this podcast and what we're going to bring to you as the listener. And so I really appreciate that, and welcome to the journey. So today I want to talk about, why did I make the podcast? What led me to come up with its creation, start making up ideas and content about why I wanted to cover what I'm going to cover, but also why do I feel fit to do it? There's a lot of people out there. It seems like everyone has a podcast at this point, and there's a lot of people out there that talk about golf. We're a golf podcast, but I feel like we bring a unique perspective to it. And also we're going to be covering content that I don't feel a lot of other people cover, because we're going to take golf, but look at the business side of it, look at the financial aspects, but also look at, how does the business of golf work? What's going on? How do we as general consumers, and I'm a golfer, been playing for 10 years. How does it impact us? What does it show about the industry, and what do we need to know about it? And then thirdly, I also want to talk about my personal biography, just give you a general introduction of who I am, but also my career journey that's led me to this point, and really go over a comprehensive view of everything this podcast has to offer and who I am. But before I get started with my background of who I am personally, you might be thinking, what does the name stand for? How did I come up with it? And what does the Clubhouse Briefing mean? I think there's two main points for that. First one is I want this to feel like you're getting the inside scoop on the golf industry. I feel like I've learned a lot about how golf courses operate, about business in general, from being a member at a country club growing up. My family was very fortunate and blessed to be able to do that. Especially me, I didn't do anything to be there, but I got to grow up in scenarios and situations in an environment that most people don't. And I'm very fortunate of that. I've learned a lot from it. It's helped me going into my career now as an adult. I don't feel like a lot of people are getting that. And so I want this podcast to almost be like an insider scoop for people to feel like they're getting to see the conversations that happen behind closed doors, and also just feel like we're doing backroom reporting. Like I said, I feel like a lot of people don't touch on the business side of golf. So that's the first point of why I came up with the name. It's backroom reporting, it feels like to me, and it's going to be things that you don't hear talked about that much in the industry. I also wanted to set the tone for this podcast. I'll be very upfront. I feel like a very energetic person, a very enthusiastic person, but I don't Mr. Beastify my content. I like Mr. Beast. I think he's doing great things in the world for primarily YouTube, but also just anything video and content related. He's doing great. He's a great guy. A little brother watches him quite a bit, but I don't make that type of content. I don't plan on making that type of content. The thing I want to talk about are more business professional. They are more professional in nature. And I want this to be a professional podcast for myself, because it'll make me do my research, not just come and try to, BS my way through it. It'll be something that makes me prepare, makes me be in the right headspace. And I think it'll add more value for you as the viewer and the audience to hear everything in a professional tone. So that's the second point, is whether the episode is 20 minutes, it's 45 minutes. I want this to be serious. I'll crack myself up. I like to make a lot of jokes, but I want this to be informative and educational, and something that you wouldn't be afraid to show your coworker or your boss or anyone that you know. So definitely going to nerd out. It's going to be professional, but that's the second reason I wanted the podcast name, is because I feel like it brings a level of professionalism that I want to present to y'all. So, all right. My golf story started back when I was 14. I decided, like most people in my grade that didn't have any prospects in sports besides maybe doing like lineman work on the offensive line because we were bigger guys, that in our school, if you didn't do that, you went to go play golf. And so I, like many other people, decided that I want to try golf. So I started playing golf at 14, and I've always been trying to grow and acquire knowledge about it, because if I'm going to do something, I want to know how it works. I want to be the best at it. And so I started playing the game at 14. I played in high school. I was on the golf team, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, so all 4 years. Really got into it really in junior year and senior year. I quit band at the time when I was a junior. I was doing band and golf as freshman and sophomore. Quit my junior year to do golf full time, and then senior year did both. Graduated, was by that point about a mid-70s golfer, maybe lower 80s depending on the tournament. But I would say addicted. Loved the sport, loved to be involved with it. Tried to walk on at the local university that I went to here in East Texas. Sadly, that's when COVID hit. Like a lot of people, COVID threw a fork into everything, threw a fork into the wrench, that gear going on in life, and everything got disrupted. Whenever I went to go try out on the golf team, I didn't have a traditional, you're scouted, you're recruited, you go onto the golf team. I was going to try to walk on it. So I had been preparing. I had played in a few amateur tournaments, I think 5 or 6 that summer. I had won one of them, thankfully. And so I was getting to the point where I was confident. So I was going to go play collegiate golf, go do that and see how it went. COVID happened, which I think was maybe God rerouting those plans and just saying, hey, it's not meant for you, so be it. So I kept playing. Playing in college, I would go play at company outings that I got invited towards. I would always be kind of a last minute scramble partner if anyone ever needed me to go, and loved it. So worked as an intern at a local company here in town, kept playing golf. But like many people my age, influencers became a thing growing up. Going into high school, college, social media influencers started to come up. And I always thought, okay, that'd be cool. Like, that'd be a neat thing to be able to do as a job or even as a hobby, but I don't know if it's for me. So the idea kind of popped up in my head to start doing golf-related content, but I didn't know what I was going to add. I mean, I wasn't a professional golfer. I wasn't a PGA pro. And there's tons of content you can get for swing advice, for everything to do with golf on YouTube or in any other form of media. And so I didn't feel really qualified, but I always wanted to keep up with golf. And so I just became an avid fan. I continued to play, kept playing after I graduated from college. And then I would say at that point, I guess I've been playing for 9 or 10 years. I would say things ultimately started with why I came up with this podcast about 3 months ago. I was sitting in an emergency room and I was waiting for the doctor to come in and relocate my elbow. I had fallen off a chair in my house, did easily the dumbest thing. And if you ask my wife, she would agree. Easily did the dumbest thing that I've done in the past 4 or 5 years and decided to use a chair to get something off the top shelf that I could reach. And worst thing is, it was a rolly chair. I always had carpet growing up, and so if I used a chair, it would never move. We don't have that anymore. Whenever I married my wife, we moved into a townhouse together. It's got wood floors. Wheels on wood floors don't mix up or don't go well together and don't mix. And so I fell off, dislocated my elbow, and there I am sitting in the emergency room, and I couldn't feel my elbow for, I guess at that point, it had been 2 hours. They'd give me drugs. They're about to relocate it. And frankly, I didn't know if I'd be home at the end of the night or I'd have to go into surgery the following morning. So sitting there, had a lot of pain medication, a lot of time to think, and it made me realize that it can be a long time before I swing a golf club. And so after that, life keeps going on as usual. The arm's relocated. I can't really use it. Got really swollen from here to this side of my arm. And so I couldn't play golf, but I still wanted to do things that were golf related. I wanted to get my golf itch somehow. And so personally, I'm a big podcast guy. I will listen to golf podcasts on the way to work, at home, if I'm doing something that's just kind of more of a low key, chill thing. And so I've always listened to golf podcasts. I listen to the news, golf, finance podcasts, self-improvement, self-help ones, listen to Christian podcasts and just other things like that. And so I've been quite inundated or just aware of the podcast space for quite a while. And I was looking at the available golf podcasts on Spotify, YouTube, and none of them were themed around business side of golf, finance, or anything business related to golf specifically. You know, a lot of them focus on swing mechanics, the psychology of professional golf, club fitting, and a lot of other things, but nothing that I wanted to explore. And so I knew that I have a natural talent with numbers. I've always excelled at math. I've always been good with working with numbers, and I work in banking now. And you know, I went to business school at the local university. I graduated in the honors program, started working at a bank. And then before working at the bank, I worked in marketing. I did data analytics and consumer insights for a food manufacturing company just north of town where I work. And always been very, very talented with numbers. I started working at a bank. I do credit underwriting. So that gave me a real introduction to understanding how money works, how things flow through local economies I work with a regional bank, but also always being interested with national economics in school and having to learn about that. I know how money works, know how numbers work. And so that gave me, in my opinion, the opportunity and the skill set to continue learning how the golf industry would work. It gave me a good foundation. And obviously, I don't know everything. I'm not a PhD. I'm not an MBA candidate or an MBA holder. I am just a young 24-year-old guy that's trying to learn. But also, I think my background gives me some standing room to say, okay, like you should pay attention. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to be due diligent. And so, like I said, when I'm sitting in the ER, I know I have a background of doing this type of stuff. I do it every day. I look at numbers every day. And I like money. One aspect this comes out is I'm a personal budgeting like guru, not guru, I guess enthusiast. I like to do personal budgeting for me and my wife. I keep up with those things, and that's just a hobby of mine. And so I think the raw skills are there, the passion's there, especially with golf. Everything I'm learning, if no one gets anything out of this, this is just interesting to me. I'm just sharing this with the people. And so, like I said, as I was coming up with this, sitting in the ER, everything going and going and going, I realized I have a passion for it. I have the skill set for it. And so that's kind of the background story that led me to create this. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, okay, what can I do to create? And I can't swing a golf club. I could bend my arm to there. That's as far as it was going to go. I knew that it was going to be months until I started swinging. Thankfully, it's August at the time of recording this, and I'm able to swing again. And I've actually been able to start teaching my wife how to golf. And so that's been a blessing, is being able to relearn the game with her in a lot of ways. But I needed to get that itch, and I wanted to do research. I enjoy reading and doing that. And so I thought, why not have me research it, present the idea to other people, and if they like it, they like it. And so that's what led me to come up with this. But I want to expand, switching gears to my second thing that I talked about in the introduction was, what do I want this podcast to cover? What do I want it to achieve? And what do I want you as the listener to get out of this? And so the first thing is I want to give a comprehensive overview of the business of the golf industry. I want to cover topics such as club manufacturing, country club operations and performance. How do things run at a country club? What are the different roles? How do they collect revenue? How do they spend that revenue? What are typical investment opportunities that country clubs partake in? And then I'll talk about operations of the PGA and the LPGA tour. I'll also touch on LIV. It's very controversial. They're 3 years in, but feels like LIV is a very, say, controversial. It's something that it always gets headlines. It always gets news, especially with a lot of the money statistics and just figures that they have related to the league because of backing and the contracts and other stuff like that. And so I'll no doubt talk about LIV, but talk about how the PGA Tour, LIV Golf, LPGA operate. What are key things for them? What are their target audience? They have audiences they have to sell to. How do the players make money? What are the investment opportunities that the PGA Tour has into local communities? What they're going to do? But I'll also talk about things. I mentioned club manufacturing. I'm already working on the script for a video of market share by companies. What are the typical costs that go into making clubs and other stuff like that? It's just things that I've always been interested in because I'll be frank, I have a Ping drive over there. I'll show it one day whenever I do the video on the club manufacturing. I have a Ping G430 Max driver. It costs me $549, and I think now like Callaway, TaylorMade, Titleist, they're all selling for between $600 and $649-ish, roughly in that ballpark. I want to know why it's so expensive, because it's just a metal head, some weights, and a face and a shaft. That's it. I'll definitely dive into equipment manufacturing. What are the costs that go into that? Talk about trendsetters, strategic partnerships in the golf industry, pricing, distribution. How does a club that's made in, say, California make it to Texas? And everything that goes into the golf industry as a whole. I'll break it up into apparel, tour stuff, player related things, how do caddies make their money, tons of different topics and things that are related to the golf industry. But I also want to talk about money flow. I, for a living, get to go through financial statements. I'm going through personal financial returns. I'm looking at, tax returns, other documents related to individual finances, but we go over business finances. And so part of what I want to do with this podcast is go through and break down financial statements of public golf companies. So you have Acushnet, which owns a Titleist, FootJoy, and some other companies that are all kind of in that Titleist umbrella. By the way, Topgolf brands. I don't know if they're the first or second largest golf company in terms of total revenue. But I know they're a public golf company. There's a lot of things that they dabble in. And they publish their financial statements. And so I want to go in and for my own knowledge and benefit, just figure out what do they publish in those? What are the key ratios, and what do they mean in their financial statements? How are they performing as companies, year-over-year trends, but also just seeing how they spend their money. Look at R&D budgets. I hear a lot of people in the industry say that R&D makes up a lot of the cost of golf equipment, and also just online services that those club companies offer. And so I want to figure out, how do they spend their money? And like I said, focus on the general business, the money flow, financial statements, and everything to do with golf and finance in this industry. Because there's currently a lot of things happening in the world of golf. It seems like every week on tour, the purses get larger. Live Golf is now in its third season, like I said, of competition. And I remember when golf was in COVID, but now we're firmly past that. It's 2025 and we're about 5 years removed from that. And so that's a factor. YouTube golf, it seems like every time I log onto YouTube, even if it's a new account, I'll have 1 or 2 golf videos that pop up for me to view. And it's really becoming a serious competitor to traditional streaming services and general telecast options for viewing the PGA Tour or any other tour. And so all of these things are going on, and I want to discuss them, break it down together, and explore all these different topics. And for me to do a lot of heavy lifting and present it to y'all. And I will already say I've already got the script prepared for the first episode of the podcast. And so it's the first episode of the podcast where I'm going to go over the top paid golfers of 2025. Like I said, purses are getting larger, players are entering into contracts with Live, but also into big earnings on the PGA Tour. I want to say off the top of my head, it's going to be around the $15 to $20 million mark for on-course earnings. And so want to look at how that breaks down by the top 5, 10 golfers, see what they're getting paid on course, but as well as off course. What are the sponsorship deals? What are they making from those sponsorships and endorsement deals? And also see how that compares to last season. See if the trends are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, or everything's kind of leveling off and golf has reached a money plateau potentially, with Live being in its, year over year continuing operations. Things may have died down from that, from the original shock factor that brought. And so, since you've made it to the end of the podcast, I really appreciate that. I want to say thank you. I am recording on my phone for most of these podcasts. I've got my mic. You'll see various things that I have to drink for the day, like Topo Chico, other stuff like that. And I use my computer for going over notes, show notes, and I just really appreciate it. But take a lot of time to film these episodes, to make them. And please let me know your feedback. Leave me comments, reviews, leave any sort of feedback you can. Help me come up with additional topics, but let me know what I can do to improve the channel, the quality of the content. And while you're at it, don't know if you'll share this episode to everyone that you know, but the first episode, the second episode, as we get going into this, please share it. I don't care if it's with your uncle that just knows what's going on in the world of golf and be interested in this, coworkers that you see at work, friends, or even your spouse. But if it's your family, your friend, your coworker, please let them know if you've made it this far, that you've enjoyed it. You are my marketing at this point. I'll spend a little bit of money in marketing dollars, but young married man, just starting off, don't have a ton of money to throw at this. And so any sort of support and help you can give me goes a long way. And so, like I said, give me comments. Subscribe if you would. Just follow me on YouTube. Or if you're checking this out, you can also find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Those are the 3 main things that I'm going to publish to. And like I said, already working on the first video. By the time that this is uploaded, it should be live. And so thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. And we'll be back shortly.